listening to Positive Perspective, one of the most interesting hours in radio, where we shine the positive light of Jesus Christ on the scriptures, music, our communities, and world issues. We're broadcasting live from Skidrow Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles.
Hi, I'm Willis Boyd.
And I'm Shantae Duncan. And you are listening to Positive Perspective. Before we start the show, I kind of wanted to briefly discuss what's been going down at UCI. I'm a student at UC Irvine, and what?
You got something you want to get off your chest?
Yes, I do have something I want to get off my chest, and that is what has been going down at UC Irvine. The student government there, Associated Students at UCI, or briefly ASUCI, recently passed a bill to have the American flag taken out of the office because apparently to them it represents some things to different people. For certain people it represents positive things, and for certain people it represents colonialism and imperialism and all these other stuff. So that bill was repealed, or vetoed, I should say, by the executive board at ASUCI. So I kind of wanted to see what you guys thought about it, or their meaning behind it, or motives behind having it taken out.
Wait,
in the first place.
Oh, the bill was repealed, meaning that you still can hang a flag, or you cannot?
You can.
You can now.
Yeah, the executive board for the student-run government, they vetoed that legislation that was passed.
Okay. So before you were not allowed to have
Before you were, but the legislative board passed a bill. They got enough votes to bring it up that it should be taken out. And if the executive board would have passed that as well, then it would be. But they vetoed that.
Does it take a majority of people, or is there just how many people are on the executive board?
I'm not sure. It's made up of the president and his cabinet, so I don't know how many people there were. But the people that are on the legislative board was 6 people that passed it, and 2 people didn't give their vote one way or another, and 4 people were absent.
So a professor couldn't take it upon himself, if it were legal to have a flag there, to hang one in his classroom? It would be illegal if it would have passed.
In a certain area. I think that there was certain areas.
It wasn't just the U.S. flag. They didn't want any flags there. They wanted to be, I guess, like a neutral kind of thing, a neutral representation of.
I think that's pretty appalling. Wouldn't you say so?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't even be offended if I walked into a classroom where the professor was Saudi Arabian and he had a Saudi Arabian flag hanging.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're in this country, so I don't understand that.
Right, on top of it, you're in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure some of the students are receiving aid from the government, so, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I think they forgot that they're going to a UC school. It's basically, it's not a private college, it's a public college. It's the University of California, and that, a California flag or an American flag is the reason that they can go to a public college, even if
they can have that organization, and they can give their opinion on anything they want.
Yeah,
because do without being thrown in prison or executed or something like that, and speaking out against their government. But I think it's kind of an embarrassment. I think it makes the school look really foolish for even, because I don't know, I don't understand.
Well, no, I don't think per se the school. I mean, you can't put it on the school, but you can put it on the society.
The news has been negative for the school, so
but the school,
it's not the school's opinion, but it still makes putting it in a bad light.
Well, they also made it, by even acknowledging it, is
well, they have to, because of the freedoms that we have, and that's kind of what college is. It's like giving young minds the room to experiment and to make the mistakes and to think. And so I don't put that on the school. And yeah, Denise this morning said, "What kind of school is that? That would allow something like that?" But they have to allow freedoms. And what kind of students, though? What is their thinking?
But you have to look at the freedoms. Even though we live in a society that has freedoms, there's boundaries upon those freedoms. And, the government just can't go down and say, we're not going to allow to have, the United States of America flag fly at any federal building. They couldn't just go through and do that. There's boundaries of what each government office or whatever.
There's different ways to go about it, and I think that flag has a lot of different meanings to a lot of people who've lost their families or who have been affected by wars or sacrifice things so that we can have those freedoms. So I think having the whole flag taken out because it offends somebody or something like that. The majority of the people at school were really against it. And the president of the club was saying himself the fact that we can have a club like this on campus is because of the flag that we're trying to have taken. They're trying to have taken down. So
that's almost like going to school abroad, like in Japan. And can you imagine if you were to say to them, "I want you to take your flag down"?
Yeah.
What would they think of you?
Or Korea, they probably beat you with that
the cane.
pole.
There's serious consequences for that.
And what Shantae said is true. It has given anybody associated with that school a negative kind of notion.
Because of social media and the internet, everybody knows what they look like and their names and stuff. So some people were saying it might be hard for them to get jobs or things like that because of
not if they want to work for ISIS.
Yeah, they're always hiring, I guess. But yeah,
always.
Yeah.
So I think that we have freedoms, but there are also severe consequences, to some of our actions.
Well, my freedoms should end where yours begin. I mean, that's pretty much the way to look at it. We have a life is like a lane, a highway lane, and if you're not crossing any lanes,
should be fine. I was trying to stay in your own lane.
Right, just stay in your lane. But also, if you're, when it comes to, things that are offensive to people, that's, Well,
it kind of reminds me with Christ. I mean, they're taking him out of the state, and federal buildings and that whole thing. But it's also the same reason that people don't want prayer in schools because what we believe in the United States might offend Arab nations or something like that. So therefore, kick him out, discard what we believe to not offend others.
I think it's this whole political correctness that's spreading where you can't really say anything without offending someone. And it's getting a lot worse where you don't really know what to call someone or what to say because there's always going to be someone that's saying that's racist or that's this or that,
Well, I'm going to call those students communists.
So I think it's that where they're just trying to take it. They were trying to take it out so there's no affiliation whatsoever and everybody can feel comfortable with that. I don't understand it.
I think they need to look back at if the federal government moved out of the out of the school, that school wouldn't even be in existence for them to attend to. It's there because the federal government helps support that school, and that is our government. But it also goes back with the age of the kids that are there. They're being raised up into elementary schools and junior highs where they want to take out the Pledge of Allegiance and they want to change that, which was something that, our forefathers put through and put in place. And I think more and more of these things are being taken away. And what it does is it teaches, the kids that this is the way to go about
it's getting more and more liberal and more lax. And that, to me, is going to be the doom of our great nation. Is that attitude. Okay. Thank you, Shantae, for getting that off your chest.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I got it off my chest.
Okay, now we have in studio tonight a young man that's been here before. We have Brad Samuels.
Hello.
And our topic tonight is basically all the madness going on with Netanyahu.
Yes.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
You like saying that name. Huh?
Benjamin, it reminds me of $100 bills. So, his visit to the United States, and it was against, I guess, the president's wishes and that whole thing. But we want to also talk about Iran's nuclear capabilities or lack of them, or what it's going to take to get them where they can have nuclear, or they call it a nuclear state. But also I want to talk about the hatred that they have openly, I guess, they have openly claimed that Israel should be wiped off of the face of the earth. They should be annihilated. Am I saying annihilated?
Annihilated.
No, annihilated.
Annihilated.
Yeah, they try to annihilate.
They already are alienated.
Yeah, a lot of folks alienate them, but they want to annihilate them, and they want to annihilate anybody that is for them and does not believe what they believe. So I guess my big thing is, President Obama, does he have a master plan, or is he just caving in to the money that would be lost in oil and prices and that whole game that, they say we're over in the Middle East anyway for is oil and that whole thing. So I'm going to have to, I know I shot in a bunch of different directions there, but since you're the guest tonight and you have free water and stuff, why don't you go ahead and take this somewhere for us?
Okay. Well, Netanyahu was here. I wouldn't say he is representative of the Jewish or Israeli people, but, his own agenda, which is...
Well, I don't know. So are you saying he's here for political reasons because he's the election's coming up? Is that what you think?
No. Well, maybe a little bit, but he's... No. What I mean is that he's, the government of Israel didn't vote him to come here and, give a speech. People are against it, actually. I don't know. When it comes to their government, I don't know if, maybe some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of them have been vocal about it. But there's no, he's here just to give his opinion, pretty much. It's not,
Well, get our support, probably.
Yeah, to drum things up, maybe, possibly. When it comes to what he wants or what the state of Israel wants, I would be on that page. They are looking for pretty much close to 100% dismantlement of their program.
Go ahead.
Not 100%, but to the point where they can only produce enough power, nuclear power for energy, which would be only to 5%, which is they're producing right now to 20%, which is used for medical purposes like cancer and medical, just anything kind of stuff to fuel things.
Okay, but I heard that we were against that, or President Bush voted that down to let them have any nuclear power, or they wanted to watch it or whatever like that. But I've heard that Iran has lied about everything, and they've just been shifty and untrusting. I mean, do you know?
You got to remember
about that?
they have a new regime in there now, so I think the people running, Obama, Congress, legislations are now trying to give this guy that just got voted in a chance to see if he's going to be any different than the people that's been in office for ever and ever and ever.
Right, but it is a totalitarian government. There's one person who makes a decision, and that's the Khomeini, and that guy is just a spokesperson.
Basically he's a puppet.
Yeah, he's trying to, right, he doesn't have any control. He's just, if he does, maybe he has a little bit of influence, I would think, but not any, he can't just say, negotiate it to this and, it's up to the Khomeini. But I believe that, what was I on right now? I lost my train of thought for a second here. Netanyahu. Netanyahu, he's trying to get pretty much full dismantlement. Right now, they're at the point where they're producing 20%, and it's a lot easier to get to 90%, which is weapons grade, than it is to get from 5% to 20%, because that's the jump.
Oh,
and once they start enriching uranium to 5%, they can. It's a lot harder to get from 5% to 20% than it is to get from 20 to 90.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that's.
So is that the fear that once they get to 20%, they can...
They are at 20% already.
So they can...
Yeah.
Right, but they're being monitored right now.
But are they?
By who?
By the International Atomic Energy Agency. They are letting them, but they're not allowed into certain places. That's they're not. There's military dimensions to their program that they're not allowed to go into. There's what they're calling bombing chambers. That they can see from satellite, that they're saying this is how they test devices, and they're not allowed in there. The Iranian government has never allowed them in there.
Okay, and that Denise was also bringing up how North Korea, had the sanctions and all this kind of crap, and they were saying they were doing one thing, and then all of a sudden...
Well, they, what happened over there was they just decided we wanted to come in and look at some stuff, and they were like, get out of here. You can't, we're done playing with you guys.
Yeah.
And
we've gotten to a certain point,
to a certain level,
and now you need to just leave so we can do what we wanted to do. And that, and that's the thing we're kind of watching this morning is we're trusting. It's like President Obama and a bunch of people. I don't even know who they were. They were all against this one guy, and they were basically saying, like Denise is saying, a new regime is in, and President Obama wants to extend a hand of trust to that man because he believes that this man is going to be different from their history and the whole history of Iran and the whole hatred of Americans and Israel. And go ahead.
Oh, well, they've been negotiating though for years with them over this. And Ahmadinejad, who was the guy before Rouhani, who's the guy now in charge, that you're talking about, he's hardcore. He's, how does Netanyahu refer to him as? He's a sheep in wolf's clothing. Or no, actually, Rouhani he considers a sheep in wolf's clothing. Ahmadinejad is a wolf in wolf's clothing.
They're trying to put a little sugar on it to make us swallow it a little easier.
Right. But they've been negotiating for years, and it's nothing new. I think Obama it looks as if he's caving in a lot.
How about you were saying something this morning about us not really knowing? It's like you were kind of favoring Obama's judgment because.
Well, I would favor it if it's a good deal, but we don't know exactly what's going on. Now, he did just speak on Face the Nation a couple of nights ago, and it sounds as if, in my opinion, that there probably will not be a deal because you're hearing the blame game right now. He threw it out there that, they've always said no, and they've continued to, so I don't really see, he kind of hinted it. I don't see it happening.
Well, the lady go ahead.
Oh, he emphasized, specifics about the deal that they've never said yes to, even to the point of his interview. Mm-hmm. So that, and then you hear the negotiator from Iran speaking, and he's saying, well, we're close to a deal. We're actually, so what'll happen is when it falls through, we were close, but they didn't, the blame game, the finger pointing.
Really what it's coming down to also is, Iran has said, this is where we're willing to give to. Here's that line drawn. Mm-hmm. United States and the other 5 nations that are in this pack that are out there, P5+1 or whatever they're calling it, they've said, nope, this is where we're going to go to. So just like Brad's saying, they're each pointing the finger saying, you're going to have to be the one that has to move closer to my line. And the other guy saying, nope, you need to move closer to my line through there. And neither one is willing to give anything. They both are pretty much standing firm on what they're willing to give to. There's no compromise at all. And they can't really compromise a whole lot because then that's moving over to, the compromise if the P5+1 goes to, then pretty much Iran's going to end up being able to make up to nuclear, weapons and stuff. The other ones are saying, well, we need to get to this point here because it's only for medical and for energy and stuff. So we need to get to here, and we want you to loosen up these sanctions so we can start selling more oil that our precious metals, gold and silver and stuff.
So we can have the income to.
They need to build the infrastructure back up and everything else, and that's kind of where the sanctions are at to hold them down. So what they have, they can't increase anymore. So I think you're right. It's all this point and going back.
So
and
basically,
forth.
what you were telling me this morning is that if we just kind of let this thing play through, that it's not going to happen.
Meaning exactly what
you're saying that
the 90% thing?
You mean the negotiation things that are going on through there?
Of the treaty, where they're negotiating, but basically what I'm getting is that they're not going to sign this treaty because they're not going to be able to do what each other wants to do. Like Denise is saying, nobody's going to come closer to the line, and therefore you're going to get a stalemate and that whole thing.
Right, but Obama might cave in more because he has the world kind of behind him. Nobody wants war. He has a very long, a 10-year deal, a 10-year freeze on, and supervision is right. But people hear that and they're like, well, why wouldn't these warmongering Jews why we could just have peace and be supervised? People don't deduct. They don't figure. They don't think about will they let the inspections in. And also, from what I've heard, is that the Obama administration is thinking that if they let it go 10 years, there might be a regime change there, which there's not going to be.
Because it's the same. But that guy could die.
But even if there's a regime change, it's just the same thing coming back over. I mean, nothing's changed in how many years? It's just a different face, but the same.
There's been 2 different faces there, but it's the Revolutionary Guard that controls things there. It's the same. When he dies, supposedly he has terminal cancer. It's just another. His Some same person.
And they already have him handpicked.
Right, but ironically, what's funny about this is nobody realizes that the United States is what gave them nuclear power back in the 70s.
And explain that a little.
The Iran and United States and Israel were all allies before 1979. The Shah, you've heard of the Shah? They're like kings. They ruled Iran for decades. For centuries actually.
I thought it's something you drape over your shoulders.
No. So Iran was a friendly nation, so at least from a government standpoint back then. I mean,
from a government. So what changed them?
Religious zealots.
And they didn't have those prior to, what did you say, 79?
They did, but they weren't, maybe they just started organizing then. Right. You've seen the movie Argo.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Argo?
Well, I think
Argo.
so.
Yeah. They go over to film.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you must watch that. That's about the takeover of the embassy. That's when the Revolutionary Guard took, when there was a political change in Iran, a regime change. That was when that's when that happened.
Oh, okay, I got you. So
But look at the whole Middle East. If you take a look at it now, the religious movements, the militants are more so than the governmental things like ISIS, the Taliban. These are standing on, making religious reasons is what they're back. It's not I'm taking the stand, ISIS and saying I'm Iranian or I'm Iraqi or I'm, Palestinian or whatever.
They got their own name.
They got their own name, and it's based, their whole thing is on this is a religious, war that we're moving for. Taliban did the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of that now. That I think is the bigger difference. It's not governments against or nations against it. It's now got this movement, a religious movement that's going in there that's in all different countries. So you can't say it's the Iranians doing one thing. You can
say that the Iranians are funding.
Well, they're funding it and they're harvesting and giving them a safe haven, but they're not the ones that are running necessarily that country because there's somebody else. I mean, Syria's got the ISIS over there. Their government's protecting.
Well, I heard that Iran is gobbling up a lot of countries or states or whatever you call them.
Well, they have a lot of military proxies. Hezbollah, have you heard of that? Mm-hmm. Israel's biggest enemy. They're considered the most powerful Arab army, besides Israel.
Which is in Palestine now?
Hezbollah is based out
running Palestine?
What's that?
Isn't Hezbollah running Palestine?
No, Hamas runs Palestine.
Okay, okay.
There are two different organizations.
Okay, yeah.
Hezbollah is Iran's baby. They created them, and they created them to destroy Israel, to fight with Israel. I mean, they are a political movement, a religious political movement, and they've gained a lot of ground in Lebanon. I don't know if you recall, there was a war between them and Israel in 2006. Their 30-day lasted.
Yeah, I briefly remember.
Yeah, but Iran funds them. Iran supposedly funds a lot of Hamas stuff. I think that they're more limited with them, but with Hezbollah, they're full on.
So what has been going on with Hamas? Because I don't really hear about it.
They're not really in the mix anymore. They're being shunned by governments and by some of their allies they've had in the Middle East. And
so they just lay down, or
no, they definitely don't lay down.
Again, I think that's one of those.
Well, they're shunning us.
They hide in the dark shadows and stuff, and then when they come out,
they're regrouping, or
and
right.
Yeah, you do hear about them every so often.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is Egypt just declared them an enemy. So in a terrorist organization, which a year ago and beyond they were on their side, which is not a good thing because they share borders with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Egypt is. Is Egypt stable even yet? I mean, they're like, in the Bible prophesies that they will collapse from the inside out, is what the Bible prophecy. I believe it's in Isaiah. But those things, and that's part of our show is bringing out biblical prophecies that are just, if you know your Bible, you know anything about the Bible or prophecies that the Bible gives. You're looking at all this stuff that it's written, and it's like it's written in detail, and it's happening. So, I just find that very, very interesting.
Yeah, Egypt is a country. I mean, that has been being flipped inside out for the past 5 years. It's been crazy.
And also Damascus, Syria, same prophecies are going on about them.
Well, in Iran, you had an Arab Spring, which is the revolt, and they were shut down real quickly.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Iran is the most powerful country over there. And it's not with the nuclear weapon. It's not just that they would have a nuclear weapon. Hezbollah would have one now.
Oh,
you know, and Hamas might get, you know what I mean? They would be able to you know, give them weapons grade material so they can, you know, I mean, it's
not just them.
It's not just them loading up a missile into the ground and, you know, possibly firing it off. It goes far beyond that.
Well, I think everybody over there, too, whoever has a nuclear weapon, they're all going to point it at Israel because they all hate Israel.
But,
okay, go ahead.
But the funny thing is, if you read into this with the, you know, what's going on and who's backing who, is all those countries are behind Israel in the Middle East. They're willing to let them launch war from their countries. Oh, some of them have, some of them, Saudi Arabia has come out and pretty much said that.
Oh, that you can fly over our
I think they've even said you could launch off of us.
Oh. Because they know Israel has nuclear power, and it's like you said, Iran is becoming so powerful and stuff. If I don't get an ally with somebody sitting over here, they're going to take me on over. So we know that Israel already has, you know, their army. I mean, that's their whole nation is their army. You know, that's what they build it on and stuff.
Right. They want a nuclear umbrella too. Israel has one, but you know, it's more than an umbrella that Iran would have. You know,
oh yeah,
it would be more of an aggressive umbrella.
Yeah, and again, Israel has been very straightforward. You attack me, I'm annihilating you. You know, I don't care who you are. That's just our. You know, they don't
play around.
They're not playing around,
and
they've shown that and stuff. You know, these other countries, you know, they smile on your face, like you said, a wolf in sheep clothing. Israel's just like flat out, this is the way it is, you know?
Right. It's funny because, you know, every day for, especially when Ahmadinejad was the president of Iran, you'd hear, that's all they talked about was, I mean, you have, you know, what was blowing up Israel. Mm-hmm. I mean,
but that's like, I was researching on a website called dailycaller.com, and it says that the holy slogan, they state a holy slogan of death to America and death to Israel, and it will never be removed from their way of life or their holy ways, and it's against the law. I mean, penalty is death to anyone that thinks differently. So, United States and Israel, I guess Israel first. They want to annihilate them. And I guess my thing is, how do you trust a country that is always, like you said, he was running his mouth constantly.
Every day.
And also, who's the guy in Venezuela?
No, Hugo Chavez. Yeah, he's a buddy of Iran's because of nuclear reasons. They trade power.
Well, and his country has got so much turmoil going on, you know, and I mean, they're in a state where they need some financial backing and stuff because they've got horrible problems going on economically and politically and everything in there. And
he declared Israel an enemy of Venezuela.
Okay, but he's also bad-mouthing the United States, and it seems like to me all those guys, they're running their mouths like, and that's what their downfall is. They're just running that mouth so much.
It's one thing to badmouth a country, but to say you're going to wipe it off the map and you have the ability to do that, it's another thing. But what's funny about Iran, you know, just the public perception behind it is they, like we were talking about, every day that's all you heard. Mm-hmm. You think they'd have other worries. The poverty there is out of control.
Right.
They don't care about that.
No, absolutely not.
I got mine, so who cares what you got?
Right, they can care less about that, especially now with these sanctions going on. The people that are suffering are the citizens. But you hear this annihilation talk every day, and they're asking Shimon Peres. He's actually the former president of Israel. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He's in his late 90s, very old guy. He was asked, you know, told that, you know, the Iranians are saying this, we're going to destroy wipe your country off the map. And he snapped and said, we could easily wipe them off the map if we wanted to. And he took a lot of heat for that, a lot of heat. And, you know, it's funny. One comment he made off of, you know, he was being poked at. And these guys make comments every day, but the world doesn't recognize it.
Oh, right.
You know?
Well, one of the things I remember when I was telling you, Willis, about what Netanyahu said when he started off his speech was that, you know, there isn't one day that he doesn't wake up, you know, fighting for the survival of his country, because everybody over there is like poking the finger, and it's like, we get up and we don't think about, are we as a country going to be surviving tomorrow? That is over in Israel. That is their,
He said
main
we have a
concern.
security problem, but they
Have
want
a
to stay in.
survival
Yeah.
problem there,
I mean, as soon as the problem and the urgency, Netanyahu, I'm definitely I sympathize with his with his whole ideology about this. Is that it's not America looks at it like this. Okay, they don't have just in general they can't hit us with a nuclear weapon. It will take them decades from now. Even if they were able to get the uranium enriched enough, they don't have a missile that could hit us.
They only have enough stuff to tick them off, Israel off. And that could
he's
be,
saying that
I know
Iran couldn't get over
they
to
can't
us
get us
either.
to
That's
us,
the whole thing
but
with Netanyahu is that he right now they could hit Israel with they have a missile that could hit them and it could be charged with
But I'm saying if it was nuclear, what I'm saying is they only have stuff right now that would only tick Israel off. They couldn't annihilate them with a missile.
No.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. If they
Right,
fired a
right.
missile over there, it's just going to make somebody really mad, and
They'll
they're going to
fire a
have
bunch
And Israel
Right.
Israel does have a missile that could wipe them
out.
Yeah.
Well, they also have a missile defense system.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Right.
getting better by the day, which is also, a lot of people have, they point the finger at Obama, he's anti-Semitic or he's not, he's anti-Israel, but supposedly he's supplied all that stuff for him.
Well, that's what, and that's why I believe we're such a great nation, because in the Bible, I said, it says that all who bless Israel will be blessed, and all who curse Israel will be cursed. And I believe that is the main reason why United States is flourishing like we do. We are awesome. We are the most powerful. What do you got to say?
I was going to say, all right, it's time to have a look at what's going on and where you could get it going on. The best impressions start at home. Elite furniture for affordable prices. Live in Large Furniture. That's Live in Large Furniture. For more information, contact Richard Boyd at 951-214-8555. Drama Stage Qumran has a weekly Veterans Theater workshop. It's led by Melvin Ishmael Johnson and Erlene Anthony. It's a free course in stage managing, playwriting, and more. It's currently postponed, but if you'd like more information about when the class will resume, please contact Melvin Johnson at 213-908-6567. You can also email him at dramastage1@yahoo.com. Positive Light is back with the kayak. If you know anything about our organization, we have a history of taking the children kayaking. Take inner city kids, kids from out of the city. Everyone is invited to this event, so please come out. The fundraiser is set for August 22nd, and the kayaking event will take place on September 19th, so let's get ready for that.
Kayak!
Yes, kayak, as Willis so politely screamed out. We'd like to thank our engineers for helping us out tonight. You guys always do a great job. Always. We appreciate that. If you'd like to sponsor our show and be a part of our show through sponsorship, contact us at 951-789-1046. To learn more about our nonprofit organization, it's called Positive Light Ministries, and make a donation. We would love to receive a donation for kayaking. The more we receive, the more kids we can take, so please help us out. Visit our website, positivelight.org, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/wearepositivelight. And now back to our discussion.
Great job. Okay, I'm going to start off. We were kind of talking about people closing in, or survival for Israel versus security for United States of America. Can you read that scripture, Shante? I'm trying to get it kind of in context.
This is Zechariah 12:3. It says, "On that day when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves."
Further, go on.
"On that day, I will strike every horse with panic and its rider with madness, declares the Lord. I will keep a watchful eye over Judah, but I will blind all the horses of the nations. Then the clans of Judah will say in their hearts, the people of Jerusalem are strong because the Lord Almighty is their God."
Okay, did that state the part where I said that all nations will be against Israel?
I'm not sure. I just, when I read it, it said that on that day when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her.
Okay, right. So basically prophecy is already, biblical prophecy is saying that all the nations will be against Israel. And basically, that's what's coming about. Now, allies like Arabia and different, factions like United States and these things, looking at kind of the research, if Israel attacks Iran, they're basically pointing their finger at the United States, because if they do it, whether we want them to or not, nobody's going to believe that we didn't allow it because of the way things are set up. We could shoot them down over a certain airspace and blah, 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 blah. So if the United States turns their back on Israel, then, what's going to happen? And that's kind of like the chess game that I see playing, is that, and like you say, you kind of said that you think, is this going to turn into anything, or is it just going to
become drawn out?
Yeah, and nothing happened. But what I'm saying is that there's some very critical, crucial stuff going on according to biblical prophecy, that if certain things happen, it can just, the ripple effect of that could bring about the second coming of Christ. Okay, you don't believe that, but I mean, when you're looking at, the prophecies and that whole thing, that's what we're looking at. Christian people who are looking, the rapture and certain things, that only Christ is going to be the one that's going to be able to save Israel. So anybody would care to interject on that? Or can you? It's deep. I came from left field with it, but it was on my mind, and I got it off my chest. Okay.
Well, like you were talking about before, how I was saying it was drawn out, it'll be more drawn out. And you hear the term warmongering going on when you hear Netanyahu here, but I don't believe he mentioned one thing about war when in his speech. All he said was, no deal, start putting a chokehold on the people they do business with. For oil, but more of it, even though they've got, sanctions out the wazoo right now, but even, apply more pressure. That's what he said.
But just since you didn't mention it, would that, would that still be part of his plan, possibly?
War?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't do something,
right? If they are in a position where nothing else can be done, and they're,
they feel threatened,
right? And they feel threatened. They will. I believe that they would attack them, just like they've attacked the other countries that have tried to build nuclear.
Right. I was reading about an attack on Iraq.
Yeah, in '81.
That went well, but they didn't really. Did they really? I guess, claim responsibility for that? Or has it been kind of shady where
they have. Everybody knows it's them who flew a jet into, jets into Iraq and bombed nuclear sites in 1981. Who had the capability to do that?
I know, but they haven't really.
And who else would do it?
Right. But it was funny I guess I've read a lot of stories about that. Leading up to that, I guess Israel was threatening to do it, just like they are now. And the world's like, don't even think about doing something like that. We'll, and they're like, we're going to.
Right.
But see,
we're not kidding.
That's what I was saying earlier. Whatever Israel says, they don't candy coat what they're going to do. They are pretty straightforward with it. You do this, I'm going to do this. And they don't play around. They do exactly what they say they were going to do.
Right, and they'll take credit for Iran being in the situation that they're in right now, being at the negotiating table because of the sanctions on them. They're financially completely cut off. I mean, I wouldn't say completely, but cut off 80% from the world. I mean, most of their,
Okay, were you telling me this morning that that nobody's really getting Iranian oil because of the sanctions placed against them? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, there's been 5 or 6 levels of sanctions, and I'm not really sure specifically each one which one each one does, but they've already got like 5 or 6 on them, levels of them. Obama has been pretty aggressive with them. Mm-hmm. The Israelis will take credit for it, and they justifiably so, because they're the ones who have marketed this whole thing. Probably because they're the ones spying on them the most, and they have all the information. But I was reading actually in the paper and online how they have tankers sitting in the middle of the ocean trying to sell oil to people.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People have seen them doing that. Yeah.
It's like half price. Discounted.
They've even threatened. I don't know. Do you remember they've threatened to cut off that Strait of Hormuz, it's called, where 80% of the world's oil passes through.
Okay, Denise, you were saying something about China still gets some Iranian oil and Russia still getting Iranian oil. But I was reading, I guess, on this dailycaller.com that if Israel was to bomb Iran, that would take 20 million barrels out of circulation from that point on. So they were basically saying if that did happen, then oil prices for everybody would go up 20 to 30%. So, and I guess we were talking about that, but you were saying that the sanctions are preventing Iranians from producing oil or getting it out there.
Well, they produce it.
What is it?
From getting it out there, they're probably obviously not producing as much of it because they don't have the money. And why produce something you're not selling?
I know, but we just said that China and Russia are both using it, and probably other countries.
Right, but I think that there's a time limit on China. There's a time restraint, meaning that if they go past a certain point of still purchasing, they get fined.
Well, and that P5+1 has moved Russia and China into that. You know, that it's United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China. So now they've moved into this 6-country.
So they can't buy it anymore?
Well,
and that's what I was talking to you about earlier, too.
I don't know if it's that they can't, but I mean, these sanctions put upon them.
They can't buy a certain amount.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But one of the things I was doing some research on, it just talks about the understanding the nuclear program steps that they're trying to put through on Iran and stuff. And it was saying that in this report that during 2011, they were making they lost over $30 billion worth of money because of the sanctions that, United States put on them. And it says, while Iran will allow access 4.2 billion of its oil sales, nearly 15 billion of this revenue during this period goes restricted to overseas accounts. So this new sanctions that they're trying to do lets some of the money be sold down there, to overseas, but it's limiting how much they can actually sell to these overseas down through there. And basically, they were saying that it's like a $30 billion loss in revenues, because of the sanctions. And it's going to lift a little bit, of these sanctions with this treaty or whatever, but still nothing to what they had before the sanctions were imposed back in 2011.
Okay, now what I was hearing this morning is that if the president stops this or vetoes this treaty or Congress does not pass it or it's thrown out, that we might lose the support of China, Russia, and this, what do you call it, P5+1?
Well, P5+1.
How come they just don't call it P6?
I don't know. Because they probably let somebody in at the last.
Well, because there's a security council. Isn't there a set security council?
That guy was late.
Go ahead.
There's a security council. They've added a country. It's France, Germany, China, Russia, the United States, and who else?
It's United States, United Kingdom.
England, right?
Germany, France, Russia, and China.
Well, it's funny.
That's the European Union,
Well, the European Union is all the European nations. Yeah. Minus, is there one of them that's not Russia, but they're Euro-Asia considered it, honestly.
Or did Greece move out of it now or something because of...
Okay, make sure you're in your mic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I can hear myself.
Yeah, okay.
It's funny, though. Russia is their biggest supporter of their nuclear program.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what we were talking about, Gog and Magog, and the Bible's prophesying Iran and Russia being in cahoots to attack Israel. Okay, but go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Well, it's just funny that they have the people who are supplying them with the ability and know-how, the knowledge to do this, are the ones negotiating against them.
Well, I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. They're sitting around tables talking about trust, and you can't trust them. I mean, even in their Quran, or how do you say it? The Quran?
The Quran. The Quran.
The Quran.
The Quran.
And how do you say the Torah?
The Torah.
The Torah. The Torah.
Well, the Torah is the first 4 books of the...
Right. Okay. Even then, in their book, it says not that they can lie to a infidel. That they're able to lie to infidels because they're infidels, I guess. I didn't have the time to research.
That's just part of their heritage, their history. That's how they've operated since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, either
That's the way they do
your
it.
friend or foe. And if you're foe, I'm going to do whatever I can to get you to get
be
what I want from
friends.
you.
So why do they
Yeah.
have it set up if none of them can really trust each other?
It's just
It's
Politics.
Just makes them
exactly. It's what I don't know if this is a good way to put it, but what wrong is more right? Maybe when it comes to that, like the United States had to bring him to the table, and they have to have the world powers there. I mean, they can't do it themselves.
And they want to,
And they have to tell, and Russia and all these other countries, even though they might be helping them, Russia, but Russia's put on the podium, and okay, will you condone Iran having nuclear weapons? And what are they going to do? Say yes?
because then
Right.
then the rest of those powers are going to turn against them, just like they're turning against Iran. But I think because of their history, all the Middle Eastern countries, they all act that way, and that's how they run things. That's why there's been so much unrest, and they, for countries that are so close together and have so much in common, but yet are as different as night and day, because nobody can trust. Not that we can trust. Mexico and Canada.
Come on,
or
you
whatever.
watch yourself, young lady.
But there's that's why our borders are left wide open. They don't have fences all up on them. I mean, yeah, we do have illegals coming on in, but we don't have armies coming across the borders in Canada or in Mexico. It's different, in the Middle East.
Right, and they fire rockets into, over.
Their power
we don't
levels,
worry
though,
about that, over
except
here.
for Israel, their power levels are pretty much the same. And I think, if Canada comes over here, they're going to get spanked. Mexico, they're going to get spanked.
Well,
and that's just common sense. You don't do that. But I'm saying over there, they're kind of equal.
But I think the United States has also controlled a lot of that, too, by what they allow. The countries that are on either side of them. We have a friendly agreement between these countries so that we don't have to worry about that.
And you're saying basically over there, it's like, I'm basically going to do what I want. And I think that's also the thing with Israel and Ishmael. One son is going to be against every nation, and every nation is going to be against him by biblical prophecy, which I think that's what we're living today. And I think that's why it also says that there'll be brother against brother, and they just going to kill. They want to fight, and they're going to kill, and that's what their way is going to be. Is there something? You go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Hey. Somebody say something, because I ain't got nothing
Well, I
to
was
say.
going to go touch back on Obama, and I might have said this morning. He, in my opinion, he did the right thing a couple years ago, and he, threw out the trust, hit the trust ball into the Iranian court and said, okay, listen, we'll release some sanctions. We'll release some, as long as you freeze your program for 6 months or a year, and we'll negotiate while we're doing that. Because nothing can be done. They can't develop a weapon while it's going on. He's giving him a little, let's see what they'll do.
No, what are you saying? They can't develop a weapon. I mean,
Because
they're still not underground. What is it? A mile underground, still frantically working on the things that they want to do in the future. And they say, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And then they just go down there and twiddle their thumbs for 6 months.
Well, no, they've allowed the inspectors in. They've allowed the International Atomic, Energy Agency into,
but not into everywhere, right?
Not into everywhere, but they have a hold on their uranium, and that's all that matters.
It's not. They can't produce any more uranium
than what they have.
Right? They can't. It's frozen.
It's frozen without anybody knowing that without knowing about that.
Okay, producing uranium is something that the world will know about once you try to do it.
Well, I don't know how they detect it, but this has been detected for a long time, and they have a plant that they've allowed, these agents to come in for the past year and a half since this deal was set. But the deal has been extended, and it's a temporary deal, and it expires in 2 weeks. That's why they're negotiating. But I believe he did the right thing. At least, okay, he got him back to he's frozen. They can't do anything right now. And that's what Israel's scared of too, is that what they say is, okay, we know they can't, but what happens if things fall through the cracks?
And they say, like North Korea did, hey, okay, thank you, but it's time for you guys to leave.
We're at the 20%. And like you said, it's easier to get from 20% to 90 than it was to get from 5 to 20.
Right, and what Obama's whole thing is that if that were to happen, we'll bomb them. But
after the fact, well, hopefully the missile system that the defensive missile system that the United States supplied Israel with will be working just fine.
Yeah, but how many people you figure are going to die with the fallout that comes from that missile, being intercepted? If you got a nuclear,
Well, they definitely don't have the ability, and nobody does on this earth. There's no defense system for a nuclear weapon. They have a missile defense system that'll knock down a non-ICBM missile, which is a counter ballistic missile.
If you blow it up, you still got all the fallout from the
intercontinental. Sorry.
Yeah, you don't have to. It's like horseshoes and grenades, right? It's like you fire that sucker, and it's gonna do a lot of. You can get close.
Nobody's actually, you think about it, and people have brought this up, where they just wake up one day and decide to push a button and blow off, kill millions of people with a weapon. Probably not, but they could if there's, and Israel brings us up, we will have serious security issues. We won't be able to attack people who are attacking us, because then they'll use the excuse that they were attacking them, we're sticking up for them. And everybody's sick of Israel right now, so people might not be that mad.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're not. And I'm not either.
I was going to ask if you were.
No.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your dual
citizenship.
Yeah. A little bit if you want.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. What's up?
I actually got it. I invoked my right to the return law, and I got in touch with this organization called Nefesh, actually. And it took a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like, you're sad. All you have to do is prove you're Jewish is, the way to do it. And the return law. But I have to go there actually to the Minister of Interior there to actually claim it. And then once that happens, you're a citizen. So I don't actually have the citizenship in my pocket. I have to go there to get it. But
how do you prove it?
That you're Jewish?
Mm-hmm.
My mom, I had to prove it through my mom. How did I do it on my birth certificate? But I sent pictures, whatever. The temple, I think, they ask you a bunch of questions on there. Where were you bar mitzvah, blah, blah, blah. So they kind of look into it. Because they're serious about security there. They don't want to let in,
Right, imposters.
Right, they do an investigation. You fill it out. They ask you where your bar mitzvah, where you grew up, who your mom is, what her name is.
And you were telling me that there's a movement to get more people back into Israel.
Yes, they have them all the time, actually. I got a phone call from that organization. They were offering a job, $1,000, which they were lying about. It wasn't $1,000. It was 1,000 shekels, which equals about $240.
1,000.
Those Israelis are sick salesmen. They're great,
Right.
But and a job. The job is working on a kibbutz, which is a farm.
Oh.
But just to get you there if you're interested. But yeah, the Israeli government, I guess, is worried about because the Arab population there is growing.
Oh,
and it's outnumbered
growing everywhere.
Well, we were just seeing that on the news today. It's not growing in United States and in like Canada and in the European countries.
Well, the European countries, I think it is.
It was actually declining, but it was down in the Middle East, Africa, China. And stuff. Africa was just, it was like quadrupled what they were just showing on so yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the motivating factors behind me getting a citizenship was a few things. One, I wanted maybe to go over there for a change, move over there. But I was also thinking about the military, and I'm too old for that now, but,
They make you get in there, right?
But they could take you up to 49. You have to do something there.
Right.
Put your time in for.
Right, and I think well, you know what? We got to close. Any last comments, real quick? Nothing, niece.
Nope.
Shantae.
Yep.
Well, I had a great time.
Me too.
I had a wonderful time. A lot of information, and you guys are awesome. Awesome. Everybody did an awesome job. In closing, I will say, we are never more like our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, than when we are loving, forgiving, and creating.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Positive Perspective.
Yeah, that'd be great.